So here we are tonight. We have her as a guest on Real Estate 101. Just so you guys all know, this class is every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. It's open to anybody with any company. We're brand neutral. So you don't have to be with one particular company or not. We do record these and we post them on our YouTube, and then we post them in 2 Facebook groups, Real Estate Success Strategies and Accountability, and then my EXP group, One EXP World. So they're always available. The recordings are always available. You guys can check them out. Although it's way better to come live and in person where you can ask questions, engage, interact. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over here to Coni. Coni Myers, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're thrilled to have you here.
We're going to talk tonight about Disaster 101 and the power of preparedness, and being prepared both personally and professionally creates resiliency. And we'll be talking a lot about resiliency tonight. First thing, here's a little bit about myself. I call myself a leadership clarity and crisis knowledge or crisis management strategist. Let me make this small so I can, there we go. And I've been a disaster consultant and trainer for many years. I was actually a FEMA inspector and trainer for 7 years. I have 2 companies. I was a founder and a principal in that went from the local market to the national stage. One of them was a national home inspection company, which became the largest in the country before we sold it in the early 90s. And then I'm also a principal with Online Ed, who is the company, or I was a principal rather, is the company that CAR offers the continuing education and uses as their platform. So we started that company about 20 plus years ago. And when my husband passed away, I bowed out because they're in Portland and I ended up living in Las Vegas. I am the founder of the CTM Solutions Group, and I have a group called Crystalline Moment Success Movement and Publishing. With the new book coming out in the next month, I'm a 6-time, I'm going to say best-selling author, because when the unthinkable happens, be prepared, be ready, will be a #1 bestseller, I promise you. All the rest are bestsellers, 2 of which are bestsellers internationally. A few months ago, Leadership in Trying Times came out, and we were #1 in 11 different business categories. Crystalline Moments was my first book in 2015, and that and Conceived to Lead are international bestsellers. I have 3 certifications. I am a John Maxwell Business and Leadership Coach, a Life Mastery Consultant, which is kind of like having a master's degree in life coach training, and a Dream Builder Coach. I've spent over 40 years in helping others with their leadership, sales, and marketing skills. And I've owned 4 consulting companies. So what's interesting about all of this is everything I have done over in my entire life, starting with, and this isn't even on here, I started when I was starting the insurance business. Everything has brought me to what I'm doing today. If I hadn't had all this other experience, I wouldn't be able to put this together, this certification, and I wouldn't be able to show you and help you, support you in really doing something that'll improve your business, not only improve your business, but help your community as well. So as I'm going through this course, I want you to look at this as if you were teaching this course, not me, because I have developed a course that once you become a CTM advisor, you can take this out into your community. You can become the trusted advisor. So this is one of my favorite quotes in the whole world. John Kennedy says, when written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of 2 characters. One represents danger and the other represents opportunity. I can tell you that disasters and crisis all represent both. Yes, there's things we have to be worried about, but they always create opportunity. My book, Crystalline Moments, crystalline means sparkly or clear. So crystalline moments are moments of clarity. And because there's always a gift and an opportunity in any kind of crystalline moment. I wrote the book after my husband passed away. And I always say that him passing was the greatest gift he ever gave me. He passed about 4 days after our 25th wedding anniversary. We had a wonderful marriage. So why would you even want to consider thinking about being a CTM advisor? Well, first of all, you could create a supportive and uplifting environment for your business, clients, and community. By educating those around you, you are saying you care. Being a good leader in your community, as you all know, is very critical to the success of your business. You can provide potentially life-saving information and help those in your community save financially. Be that reliable source within your community. Differentiate yourself in your community by being a trusted source who others will turn to first. while also being a part of an important change for everyone around you. With the exception of a couple different disasters, both man-made as well, man-made disasters, all of the disasters out there, both natural as well as man-made, have some type of real estate component to them. So becoming a trusted advisor in your, a source in your community is going to go a long ways in raising the level of visibility as well as showing how much you care. So what are we going to talk about tonight? We're going to talk about why it is so important to be prepared. We're going to be talking about emergency kits, preparedness plans, mindset, leadership, and communication. I'm not going into the natural disasters tonight because we just don't have enough time. But again, I want you, as you're looking at this, to think about this is something that you could be doing in your community. Why do we even be concerned about disasters? Well, there's a big reason. First of all, the number of disasters has increased dramatically over the last since 1980. From 1980 to 1989, there were 286 disasters. And from 1990 to 1999, there were 737. And these are disasters over $1 billion or more. And this is all adjusted for inflation. 2000 to 2009, it was 1,266. We did have a bit of a decline from 2010 to 2019 of 1,186. 2020, and this number is actually, I found out today, it's actually 305. Again, this is just 1 year for the decade. So you can just imagine what it's going to be like looking at 2020 to 2029. So it's really important to understand the number of disasters are up. That means that the cost is up, and the cost is just absolutely astronomical. So if you look at 1980 to 2016, there were 212 disasters over $1 billion, resulting in $1.2 trillion. 2018 to 2019, there were 28 disasters resulting in $1.75 trillion. Now, how does that break down? Let's just take a look at 2019. In 2019, there were 3 floods, there were 8 severe storms, there were 2 tropical cyclones. They call it one wildfire, but it is wildfire that included 25 different incidents in California, Oregon, Washington. They were all firestorms. And the average cost per event, if in 1980 to 2019, again, it was 1.75 trillion. That equals $44 billion per year during that time frame. If we look at the 2014 to 2019, that's 5 years, $532 billion, or $106 billion per year. That's how much it has increased if you just look at the last 5 years. Now, if you look at the last 3 years, 2017 to 2019, it went to 457 billion, or 152 billion. So the increase in those 3 years over the 5 years is 50% greater. And we really do not have an idea of what 2020 is going to cost us. The numbers are not finalized yet. So why are there such an increase in disasters? Well, first of all, exposure. There's the global sea level is rising. We also have outdated flood maps, and we're having higher rainfall. We're having the hurricanes and things. You combine that with the global sea rising, and you've got much greater exposure. You've got vulnerability because the intensity, the damage is caused, the intensity because of the windstorm, the flood depth, the number, all of that, there's more vulnerability. Climate change, and climate change has a dramatic role in the increase of frequency of extremes that have led to $1 billion. So there's, like last year, we had 30 named storms. We went through the American alphabet, or the English alphabet, as well as the Greek alphabet. So just in hurricanes alone, and then look at what happened with the fires throughout the Western United States. Last year, there were 3 towns in Oregon alone that were completely wiped out because of fires. So it's real. Those are all the reasons why there's such an increase in natural disasters. What kind of an effect does this have on individuals and communities? Well, first of all, over 60% of Americans say they will be impacted by a disaster in the next 3 to 5 years. But guess how many people are prepared? Less than 35% have a disaster kit or an evacuation plan. Only 15% have a financial plan of some type. So people are just not prepared. My vision and my goal is to help over the next 5 years, help 30 million people be prepared, better prepared for disasters. And I use an average of 19% of people being prepared. That only takes it to 25%. So there's a lot of work to be done out there. It's a great opportunity it's a perfect fit for a real estate agent. The impact on individuals, human life. Just look at the pandemic. Look at the people that were lost in the fires. Look at the people that were lost in the hurricanes. This is dramatic. The number of lives that is increasing every year that are lost because of disasters. The impact on the economy. Anytime there's any type of a disaster, there's a huge impact on the individual's economy. Just look what's happened with our pandemic and what's happening with families and where they are financially. And the impact on the ecology and environment, dramatic floods cause major havoc, fires cause major havoc on the ecology and the environment of an area. Look at what happened to Paradise. Paradise is still struggling to try to find their way back. And you all, I know that Margarita's in an area where there's lots of impact individually when it came to the fires and things that have happened. The psychological impacts are dramatic. I mean, there's 50% of people that go through some type of disaster end up needing some kind of clinical assistance to get themselves well. And then there's the social impacts. If you take a look at Paradise, or you take a look at these other areas that have had these major disasters where they've destroyed entire communities, what happens with that community? How do you bring that community culture back? And that brings us to communities. They have major impact on the population, the demographics, the cultural shifts. It's when you start rebuilding a town, it rebuilds differently. You can't rebuild the culture that was there. Many people leave New Orleans from Katrina. There's still people that have never come back. Economically, it has a huge impact on the taxes, the community taxes, the state taxes, and ecologically, environmentally. All of those things are majorly impacted when it comes to disasters. What about the effect on the real estate industry? I tried to find a newer report from Realtor Track and couldn't find one. So the latest one they have is 2015. 43% of homes in the US are at high risk or very high risk for some form of disaster. That accounts for $35.8 million in 2015, with a value of 6.2 or $6.6 trillion. Today, the value is over 11 trillion, and that's only for those 35.8 million homes. The number of homes in the same areas and the place at risk now are much greater, so the number is much higher. The things that are going to impact the market, and I'm sure you probably in your area probably experienced some of this. The frequency of disasters, people are going to think twice about moving into the area. Insurance availability or lack thereof, and the cost is going to prohibit people. Ability to qualify for a mortgage. If you have to have the insurance and you can't afford the insurance, that reduces the number of people that are going to be able to qualify. Climate change. If you're doing anything along the coast, you've got people asking, well, how's climate change going to affect my property? Or if you're in a dry area like the fires, how is climate change changing the market? Delinquency and foreclosures always play a role whenever there's some kind of a natural disaster, and inventory, as you're all experiencing now. The home values are typically higher in a high risk area because of the desirability of the area. What are the effects on property values? Some things to consider. First of all, when you're really looking at property, the things you want to look at is, what is the effect of climate change? What type of disasters are happening in the area? What are the risks for future disasters? What are the things that are going to impact partially damaged properties? What is the extent of the damage? How much is covered by insurance? Is there insurance? Is it a fair plan, or is it actually an insurance policy? Effect on vegetation and land. Completely destroyed properties. How do you have an appraiser assess a value if the properties are all gone? And how do you determine the quality of and the condition of the property before the disaster struck? So all of those things have major impacts on property values. Let's talk now about preparedness. So Prepared, Not Scared was the National Preparedness Month, which is September, FEMA's slogan. That was 2019. Last year, it was Disasters Don't Wait, Make Your Plan Today. So it's really critically important to understand the importance of preparedness and what you need to do. So why do you want to be prepared? Well, first of all, one of the most important things is it changes your mindset when you are prepared. You know you're ready. You know you can go. You go into resilience. It also gives you more time. So a good friend of mine she's also a part of Awesome Females and Woman Up. She lives in Malibu, and she was born and raised there. Her mom still lived in the family home before the Malibu fires. She has an office there that has about 40 agents. And when the Malibu fires happened, her family home was destroyed. Several of the agents in her home or in her office had homes either destroyed or damaged. She and her husband and her two little girls got a call in the middle of the night telling them they had 15 minutes to get out. She was like panicking. She said she spent the first 6 or 7 minutes just spinning around in a circle, not knowing what to take. So that's why you want to be prepared. You also want to be self sufficient. So sometimes it takes 24 to 48 hours for a first responder to get to you. So, who are the first responders immediately? They're your neighbors. So, you need to be self sufficient and be ready to go and to be able to help your neighbors. What are some of the things you need? Obviously, an emergency kit. You need plans. You need a list of all the things you need to have. And then you also need to know where the emergency alerts, where are the local, how do you access the local emergency alerts? And the when, before, during, and after a disaster. So let's take a minute and talk about emergency kits. First of all, if you have one emergency kit, that is not enough. You need 4 emergency kits. The first one is this complete emergency kit that we're going to be looking at here. The second is a go grab bag that has your prescriptions, just immediate stuff, a smaller bag that you can take it if you have to be rescued. You need a kit for your car. And then if you're not working at home, you need a kit for your work. So the overall major emergency kit you need to have, the first thing is cash. And most people don't think about putting cash in your emergency kit. And not just $20, $30. You may have to go find a place to live and your credit card may not work. So you need to figure out how much cash you need to have. You know about water, you know about non-perishable food. Make sure you have a battery powered radio or a NOAA weather radio of some type in case your cell phone doesn't work or electricity is not on. Flashlights or whistles, first aid kits, documents, all your family and other important papers, copies stored on a drive or a cloud, as well as hard copies with you, masks, plastic sheeting and duct tape, moist towels, trash bags, and plastic ties. Put in a bucket, you have your personal sanitation. Wrenches, pliers, other tools. Local maps, papers, pencils, cell phones with chargers, solar powered bags, prescriptions, glasses, fire extinguishers, matches, emergency reference materials, which you can get from your emergency management office. Sleeping bags, clothing, solid shoes. No flip flops, no high heels. This is not a fashion time. It's good, solid shoes. If you walk through water, you can get through. Household items, paper supplies, bleach, and medicine droppers. Feminine hygiene and other needs. And games, books, and puzzles. The person I just talked about, when they got to the shelter, she had 2 little girls. I think they were 4 and 6. And she had nothing for her kids. And they were at the shelter for several days. When you're making a plan, what kind of plan do you need to have? How will you receive your emergency alerts and warnings? Make sure you know that. What are the special needs for your family? If you're a parent, what is your parent plan? If you have a kid, what is your kid plan? And make sure the kids know the plan and have the plan in their backpack. What is the shelter plan, including a shelter plan for your pets? Most shelters do not take pets unless they are a service animal, so you need to make sure you have a plan. There's nothing worse than being a FEMA inspector and going out and seeing animals running around scared because they don't know what happened and they don't know where their masters are. And the same with masters trying to find their pets. So make sure there's a plan for the pets. What is the evacuation route? So not just one, you need to have at least 2 evacuation routes. What is a family and household communication plan? You can make that a part of the family event where you can have your kids, maybe the kids communicate with the grandparents, get them involved. That way they feel like they have some control. What is the business emergency plan? And what is the business communication plan? All those things need to be planned out and put into writing. So what do you do before, during, and after disaster? Well, first and foremost, before a disaster strikes, you have your plan and your emergency kit. Beforehand, make sure you run family and business drills. I highly recommend if you have small children, the first year you have the family drills at least 4 times a year. After that, a couple times a year. Take different routes of evacuation. Make sure you know the routes and maintain and update the kits and plans as needed. I've done presentations where I ask people who have kits, and there'll be a few that'll raise their hand. And then when you ask them, they'll say, well, we rated it for this tape or that. And so you need to maintain those plans, take out food that is, or anything that is out of date. Know your company's disaster plan. Make sure you share it with everybody that's on your team. During a plan, the most important thing of all is to breathe. And I'll be talking about an acronym here in a little bit called STOP. So stop and breathe and stay calm. Gather your kits and plans, and when told to evacuate, do it. There's nothing that aggravates me more than when I see on TV people having to be rescued because they decided to stay behind. And now they're putting first responders and volunteers at risk to save them. So there's nothing in that home or that property that's more valuable than a person's life. After the disaster, first thing you do is evaluate how you are. How are you emotionally? How are you physically? Then how is your family? It's like the airplane. You put your mask on first, and then you take a look at your business situation. If you need to find lodging, you do that first, because that usually becomes a very tight commodity when there's a disaster. Secure your property and take lots of pictures. I tell people, when you're getting prepared, take a video of your entire house, open the cabinets all up, go around the inside of the house, open up all the drawers, then go around the outside, because you're not going to remember everything you have if something happens. And then afterwards, you take pictures again, because either the insurance companies, or when you're trying to figure out what you've lost, you're going to need those pictures. Make sure you reach out to the appropriate agencies like FEMA and the Red Cross and all those people. They'll be there to help you. Make sure you reach out to all the appropriate agencies. There might be some governmental agencies you need to reach out to, like the real estate commissioner or something like that. Save all your receipts, even if you don't think it's not going to be covered by insurance, because there are some tax things you can do. Reach out to others in your community to help. This is where being a realtor, you can really shine and create an incredible opportunity. How do you prepare your business? Expected by 2100, 2.4 million homes and 107,000 commercial properties are going to be increased. There's going to be increased by that amount at risk due to climate change, according to the Union of Concerned Scientists. So what do you have to do to prepare your business? Well, first of all, you need a workplace emergency kit, or plan rather. You need to brainstorm strategy. So knowing the risks in your area, and then what you can do to mitigate that risk, to lower the risk of major damage. Make sure you understand your insurance coverage, and make sure you know what you have and what you don't have, what the deductibles are, how long you may have to wait before the insurance will kick in. You need to understand that prior to disaster. You establish a crisis communication plan. You put together a crisis team and make sure that everybody knows who's going to talk to who. Have a business continuity plan, which includes things like protecting your company's data, identifying critical tools and relationships that you need to be able to continue with your business once a disaster strikes. Train yourself and others in first aid, and have a responsibilities plan. So who's going to be responsible for what within your company or your team? Have a plan on how to pay staff and contractors. How are you going to move forward? And then practice drills with your team. Then how do you prepare your community? Again, you have the opportunity as a real estate agent to shine and be a trusted advisor in your community. I know that all of you, because you are real estate agents, are already doing that in your community. This just gives you one additional tool in your toolbox that's going to make a huge difference in your community. You're going to save lives, you're going to save money, and your community is going to see you as a trusted advisor. So you need to understand what risk the community has for the disaster and become informed about them. You need to find out if there is already a disaster plan in place. Determine what resources are available. You might have government entities or that kind of thing that are already in your community that can help with disaster preparedness. Understand your neighborhood and how everyone can help one another. Again, the first responders really are your neighbors. So get to know them and get to know what everybody's skill sets are, and make a plan for the community or for the neighborhood. Hold meetings to discuss preparedness and recovery plans, and make them fun. Unfortunately, disasters are not a fun thing to talk about, but try to make them as fun as you can. Have a picnic, and the same with your children. When you're doing the drills and everything, try to make it a game. Organize and create a community plan. Create an emergency kit, probably more than one, for the community, and place it where it's easily accessible and more than one person knows where it is. Make sure there is a way for everyone to reach one another. Make sure there's a call tree. Everybody knows who they're going to be calling. And there's a part of FEMA is something called the Community Emergency Response Team, or CERT training program. It's hands-on training. Fabulous program on first aid, uh, light search and rescue, hands-on. There are 2,700 communities in the country that have a CERT local program, and there's over 600 volunteers as a part of that. So there's probably one close to you or in your neighborhood. If not, you can start one. But it's a great program to get your community involved in. Now, let's talk about the three most important parts of being prepared for disaster: mindset, leadership, and communication. The right mindset, strong leadership skills, and an effective communication plan fosters resiliency and a positive action when any disaster strikes. Anytime a disaster strikes, the first thing we have is stress and fear. I put this in because this is an invaluable book for anything, any part of your life. It's called The Upside of Stress by Dr. Kelly McGonigal. She says, when you view your stress response as helpful, you create the biology of courage. When you choose to connect with others under stress, you create resiliency. And we're going to be talking a lot about resiliency here in just a second. What's interesting in this book, she says, and she has the science to back it up. If we believe that stress will kill us, we increase our chances of dying from stress by 46%, but only if we believe it. We have the opportunity to turn any kind of stress into a positive challenge. Just think of an athlete just before they go out onto the field or wherever they're playing. Before that, there's going to be some anxiousness and some stress. But what they do is they turn that into a challenge. They turn that into forcing them to be more confident. Now, then you're going to have less anxiety and you're going to increase your energy. So you want to make stress healthy by using mindfulness practices and turn fight or flight into excite or delight, or tend and befriend. And this, again, is a wonderful tool that you can use to help your community. How important, or what is the most important mindset in disasters? Resilience. What happens when disaster strikes? You become immobile. You have fear. You want to fight or flight. You have panic, anxiety, anticipation, all those things. And only way to turn that around is by creating a resilient mindset. I love this quote, that which does not kill us makes us stronger. So as we look at this, when I talk about crystalline moments, I always say there's a gift and an opportunity. Disasters are one major crystalline moment to provide gifts and opportunities if we have our head into resilience. Why is resilience so important? Well, first of all, the definition of resilience is the ability to quickly recover to a previous status and or better. So building back better, finding out once you are in the recovery mode, how can we build back better to keep it from happening again? Disaster survivors and first responders will all tell you the most important thing you can have is a resilient mindset when it comes to preparation, survival, recovery for disasters. You've all seen on TV when there's a disaster strikes that there's two types of people. There's the one that says, "Oh, I've lost everything. I don't know what I'm going to do." And then there's the one that says, "We've lost everything, but we have our lives. We can move forward." That is a resilient mindset. Emergency management uses resilience in their infrastructure, community, and businesses and individuals. They measure the resilience of all of that and talk a lot about how they can improve the resilience of all of those things. So you want to turn the idea of resilience into a mindset of change. And what does that mean? That means that you're going to have the plans and you're going to have the drilling and the training so that you are properly prepared, and that will create resilience. For survival, resilience makes all the difference in how you're going to respond and the efficiency with which you are going to respond, and whether or not you may or may not survive. Recovery, it's all about, again, you may or may not Depending on your mindset, you may or may not be able to recover. Or if you are able to recover, your resilience is going to determine how quickly you recover or how slowly you recover. So let's talk a minute about mindfulness. There was a study done in 2011 that incorporated 57 different leaders from 57 different sectors of business. It was put on by the Harvard Business Review, Yale University, a bunch of think tanks, a bunch of psychology organizations. They brought on these people, they divided them into two groups, one that went through the mindfulness practice program and the other that did not. And they did like MRIs, they did all these, the psychological testing, all these things on these individuals. What they found was mind blowing. First of all, mindfulness creates emotional intelligence in 4 different areas: focus, compassion, creativity, and clarity. How important are those when you're in some type of crisis or disaster situation? What's interesting is that what they did is they did 8 weeks of mindfulness training, practices training, and then they had the participants continue on for another 12 weeks. And then they came back and they retested everybody. Obviously, the people that didn't go through the mindfulness training, they didn't change much. However, the people that did go through the training, there was over a 90% increase when it came to resilience with the people that went through the mindfulness training. There was over an 80% improvement on the complexity of being able to handle complex thinking. There was also over an 80% improvement on collaboration. Mindfulness is no longer something to consider as something nice to have. It is a must have in your business, in your personal life, with the people around you. If you can incorporate mindfulness practices, you will change the way that you think, the way that people around you think. Not only that, but 2 years later, 2013, a university out of Canada took this study and combined it with a bunch of other mindfulness practice studies. And what they discovered when they looked at the brain matter actually grew in size. Now, I don't know about you, I'm 72. I need as much gray matter as I could possibly put together. So it's not only good for the disaster stuff, it's good for your everyday life. So one of the first things you need to do is put together your personal communication plan for yourself and your family. If you're by yourself, if you're single, get together with some of your friends and develop a personal communication plan jointly. Number 1, stay calm, don't panic is number 1 in the planning and putting that down. You want to breathe and stay in the present moment. That's what mindfulness is all about. You want to keep or add a landline or some kind of non-cell phone way of communicating, whether it's a solar phone or whatever. Make sure you have extra chargers and batteries so you can communicate with others. You want to make sure you have an emergency contact list. Everybody knows what that is, and you know who you're going to have to reach out to. Then you identify who's responsible for contacting that person, everybody on the list. Create an emergency plan for when you're at school or work. So who's communicating with who? I just talked to a woman who was in the hurricanes this summer in Texas and Houston. Her kids were at school. Her cell phone was out. She had no way of communicating with her kids for 2 days. Believe you me, now she has a communication plan. And make sure you do regular drills so each person knows exactly what to do. Communication is second only to emotional intelligence when it comes to great leadership. So, in this situation, you have to be the leader. When it comes to a business communication plan, you want to create a crisis team and determine who will lead that team. You want to create a call tree. You want to create a detailed plan indicating who is responsible for each part of the plan. You want to create a list of entities that need to be contacted. And some of those may include team members, their families, clients, customers, news media, community and neighbors, company management, directors and investors, government elected officials, regulators, and other authorities and suppliers. Can you imagine taking this out to your community and helping your business put this all together? In creating a crisis management central command center, you need to create this for your business, and there needs to be 2, one in your office and then one offsite in case your office is destroyed or damaged. What do you need? You need the same things in both centers. You need the phones and radios and things we talked about. You need a separate email system for your main email system. You need written plans and instructions for senior management employees, clients, customers, vendors, all backed up on the cloud. A generator, flashlights, batteries, lanterns, all those basic items. A first aid kit, emergency kit, and supplies. Solar chargers, power banks for smartphones, and a security system. So let's say we're talking about a man-made disaster like an active shooter. You want to make sure that if you are that you have some kind of a security system and a plan for that. Leadership is incredibly important. The leader is either going to make or break the recovery process of any disaster. A leadership will determine whether the effects of the disaster will be minimized or exacerbated. Now, you may have a team, you may have an office, and you may be the best broker owner or broker manager that you could possibly be, but you may not be the best person to lead a team in a disaster. Some of the skills you need to look at for people that are going to be the leadership, you need to have somebody that's very self-aware and is also aware of others. You need somebody that's very decisive. You need to have somebody that has necessary skills, uh, flexible, be a good problem solver, good at strategy planning and organizing others. Some of us have great motivational skills and great skills at helping people market and sales, but we may not have the project management skills needed to be a good leader when it comes to disasters. It all starts just like yourself and your business. It starts with purpose and vision. Having a purpose or vision for disasters is critically important. That's one of the things I cover in the class. Organizational management and awareness, being totally aware of what's going on around you, for yourself as well as for others. In preparedness leadership, for your personal business and in your community, first and foremost, you want to be mentally prepared. You want to make sure you have that plan and you know that plan and you practice that plan and have mindset drills. You help your others, the people that you're leading. You make sure that all of them understand that all of this is critically important. And then make sure you have good organizational management. And then practice, practice, practice. There's no harm in hoping for the best as long as you are prepared for the worst. Stephen Cave. This is how you get prepared. This is how you make sure that you're going to be able to move forward both individually as well as for your business and community. What does it take to be good survival leadership? First of all, you need to be confident. You need to know and perceive and evaluate problems effectively. You need to help others be able to be in a survival resilient mindset. You need to be able to implement the plan, take decisive action, count your blessings. Again, go back and look at, okay, I'm alive. My house might be destroyed or my business might be destroyed, but I'm alive. I can build it over again. Celebrate successes. That's critically important when you're trying to recover from a disaster, even if it's just getting out of the shelter if you were in a shelter, or the fact that you were able to get a hold of FEMA, whatever those are. Celebrating those successes actually changes the chemistry in your brain so that you're able to move forward and look for more successes that are going to come. And you must believe that you will succeed. Do whatever is necessary that you have to do, and then surrender to the outcome. Now, this acronym STOP is one that's used by the emergency management people. It's also in mindfulness practices, it's something that's used all the time. The S stands for stop. So whatever you're doing, stop whatever you're doing. Take 3 breaths. Take deep breaths to bring you back to the present moment. And then observe what's going on inside of you first, and then observe what's going on around you. And then proceed with your plans in a decisive way. I want to give you a little story. So I do retreats twice a year in Mexico. And it's in an area that there's 3.5 miles of beach. It's called Estrella del Mar, right outside of Mazatlan. I was doing a retreat. There was a bunch of us outside. There was a school of dolphins that came by. Everybody went running down to see the dolphins. One of the ladies jumped into the water. Well, there had been a hurricane 2 weeks before, and the riptide was really bad. And here's everybody looking at the dolphins and cheering on the dolphins, everything. And myself and my partner were standing up by the pool, and we see this woman going this way, away from the dolphins. We start screaming, and we go running down to the beach. There were 6 ladies down there, and they all looked at me. All of them started running except one. Now, most all the ladies were over the age of 55. Actually, most of them were over the age of 65. There was one young lady there that was 35 years old. She stood up. She was a competitive swimmer, and there was another lady there that did triathlons. But she stood up and she stopped. She stopped what she was doing. She observed. She looked around. and she observed what was happening. And then she knew she was the one. So her and the gal that, or the triathlon, they took off into the water, and they reached out. They tried to get to her with the life buoy, but there wasn't enough rope. What was interesting, and all the other ladies fell into line, and everybody knew what their role was. We found a rope from a guy that was painting the side of one of the condos, and we extended the rope, and they were able to get out there to her and get her into the buoy. About that time, there was a man and his wife coming down who had a boogie board. Turns out he was an ocean rescuer. He went running into the water. They brought her back. That was about the time that the medical people showed up. Um, she almost drowned, but this young woman stopped. So make sure this is an acronym you can use for anything. Stop, take 3 breaths, observe the situation, observe what you're feeling, and then proceed with a plan. It is not the strongest or the most intelligent who will survive, but those who can best manage change. Recovery leadership. So, as a mindful, resilient leader, you will maintain your own and others' mindset. Your leadership vision is your plan. You want to see what the end result wants to be. So, what does the final recovery look like? And then create a vision around that. Lead with confidence. Practice effective engagement. Make sure that you're engaging with the people around you and your team. Practice mindful problem solving and decision making. Practice efficient time management and be accountable. If you mess up, admit to it. That way, others, if they mess up, will admit to it too, so you can correct the problem. I think this is probably one of my favorite quotes of any. Nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible. And that doesn't apply any more or any less in disasters. The entire future depends on leadership during recovery. Leadership heads up planning and consolidating the efforts of the colleagues and resources. So I mentioned that I wanted you to look at this as I was going through it as your way of you could take this out to your community. So what I've done, the CKM Advisor, which is what you become once you complete the 4 courses required for the Crisis Knowledge Management Certification. And what does that give you? Well, first of all, thanks to Marguerite, we have a consumer course that can be completely customizable. Talks about natural disasters as well as man-made disasters, as well as a lot more in depth of what we talked about tonight. You can customize that for your particular area and take it out and teach it to your civic organizations, to your customers, to your churches, to your schools, and you can help be a part of helping us help 30 million people be better prepared. So think about, you can save lives, you can help people be profitable, and be one of the leaders in your community. You also have the opportunity when the unthinkable happens, be prepared, be ready is a consumer book I wrote rather. You can become a co-author in that and say why you wanted to become a CKM advisor. I have 5 best-selling books that have been out for a while now. I can tell you there's no better marketing tool than saying you're the author of a best-selling book. You can share that with your clients, your customers, and team. That's also available to you with it once you become a CKM advisor. You also have a branded toolkit that is just like some forms and some basic information that you can brand with your own information. As a part of the community, you get your marketing collateral, which you can brand with your own information, as well as we provide ongoing education and training, first of all, to maintain your professionalism and make sure you get the most up-to-date information. But also, you can then take they're going to be like mini classes where if we're talking about floods, we're going to do something special about, or if it's fire season, we're going to talk about mitigation for fire and how do you protect yourself. That's going to be every month. There's going to be ongoing education. Then we're developing a CKM resource page where you can go on, and if you want more information about floods or fires or whatever it is, there'll be more information out there about it. And as a part of the community, when there is a disaster that strikes, you can pull together as a team of CKM advisors and go out into your community and help in the recovery effort. And you will have the entire backing of the entire CKM advisor community and leadership. So the courses that are involved, there's 4 courses to get your certification. The first one is Be the Good News in the Face of Bad News. It's an overview like we did tonight, that was a little bit more in depth. All of these would be a lot more in depth. Preparedness, how to prepare. I go through in the natural disasters, type disasters preparedness, and then an overview of recover. The second course is mindset, leadership, and communication, just more in depth than what we talked about today. The third course is surviving disasters of our own making. We cover pandemics, active shooters, mass attacks, hazardous materials, chemical incidents, cybersecurity, explosions, nuclear explosions, the power plants, power outages. You would not believe when you go through this course, the cost every year in the US for each one of these, it's astronomical. The fourth course, Road to Recovery, Managing Insurance, Mortgage, and Recovery Services After a Disaster. This is where another area where you can really shine as a real estate agent. I can tell you, when I was being quarantined, it was right when we first started quarantining, when I was writing, I had written the first course, I was working on the second course, and I got to the third course, and I thought, I'm sitting here in quarantine. If I can sit here and not get depressed writing about all of this in quarantine, then I'll never get depressed. I can tell you, I almost got depressed when I started looking into the insurance. It was frightening what is happening there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop now, stop sharing, and talk with you a little bit about, first of all, I would love to know if you have any questions.
So Connie, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for the great content. I mean, it's just so you guys all know, I'm personally in the process of completing this certification course myself to be certified. And what I would love to see is for us to be able to take this out and do some events in our communities, maybe later in the summer when things open up a bit. I would be more than happy to do them with you, in conjunction with you, help support you in any way to put these courses out there for the community, right? It's a great way to establish yourself within the community. It's a great way to give back to your community and help support the people in the area. I know that what we have a lot of here in Northern California are fires. And I know for a fact that so many people are not prepared in any way, shape, or form for the potential disaster. And so we could even get some of this stuff sponsored, maybe get some things to put into kits for people. I mean, there's a million ideas we could do with this, from branding and, a lot of other avenues and resources to all partner together. Whoever wants to put a class like this together, I'm happy to come speak, talk, teach, do it with you, be there to support you, whatever you need. But it's really, I think, vitally important for all that we have gone through in the last few years, from fires to pandemics to, I mean, just myself, after watching this course, I felt like I wasn't even prepared, and started ordering some stuff. And I have to laugh because I'm here in Tahoe at my girlfriend Jeralee's house, and she had literally probably a year ago said, girl, you got to get these packs together. And, we all kind of like chuckled, right? Well, now we're all like, I always say, if there's a disaster, I'm going to Jerry's house. But the reality is that there might be a long line to get to Jerry's house, so I better be prepared myself as well, right? And that's something that we need to make sure we're at a minimum prepared for our families, but at a maximum, what can we do to help our communities?
I could tell you, Marguerite, that another very staggering statistic that I didn't mention is that FEMA says, and this is obviously going to be even worse for the pandemic, but 75% of small businesses that do not have some kind of business emergency plan will be out of business at the end of 2 years if there's a disaster. And I want you also to think about something else. If you are the person out there, and by the way, you can offer this virtually. It's a slide presentation. You can customize. It doesn't have to be something that, if you're not comfortable doing it live, you can do it virtually. I can tell you that it's critically important. If you're out there talking about this, who are they going to come to when there's a disaster and they're looking for help, or who are they going to come to for their real estate needs? If you're out there and so every couple months you offer them another little, like 30-minute virtual class on. Am I muted? No, I'm not muted. Oh, now you're okay. Anyway, so any other, oh, by the way, so I was telling Marguerite, I'm going to actually do a live virtual of the certification class. It's going to be the entire class. At the end, you'll be able to take the exam and be a CTM advisor. I'm doing it live here in Vegas, but I'll be doing it virtual. So if you want to come on and join me, it's going to be a 6-hour course. We'll be taking a half hour off for lunch and 2 15-minute breaks. So it's actually 5 hours of training, but you'd be able to get your certification right online. And it's the first one I'm doing. I'm doing it to experiment to see what kind of reception I'm going to be getting from it. But by the end of the day, you can take an online exam, and you can become a CKM advisor. It's going to be on March 12th, and I'll be sending a flyer to Marguerite so she can send it out to everybody. I
Yeah, we'll
should
be
have
sure
that
to
probably.
we'll post the links and the flyers and everything in our Facebook groups as well, because we do have a link if you are interested in becoming an advisor. We do have a special link for you to get a discount on the class. How much is the class? I can't remember, Connie.
I think yours is set up for $250.
Yeah, $250, and you become a certified advisor. So it's well worth it. Of all the certifications that I've done in my career, this is one of the best ones that I've seen. So I encourage you guys to look into getting this certification, so you're not only prepared for your family, but for others. And you can utilize the link that I'll be posting, because it does give you a discount, because normally the price is higher.
Also, because she is a prestige partner, we'll be offering ongoing special benefits as well. The live event is actually a little bit cheaper. It's going to be $199 for the virtual live event. It's the first one I'm doing, so I wanted to make it available a little bit less expensive, because I'm hoping it's all going to go really well. but if it goes well, I can see doing this with Marguerite for more of your team members, because I think it might be a really good way of getting it through. Everybody's so busy. If we can get it all done in a day's time, that might be a really good benefit. So any questions I can answer from anybody? I really appreciate you guys being on. I am so passionate about this. I'm very excited. We've already got something like over 4,000. I think it's like, or maybe it's over 3. I think it's like close to 3,700 people that have either registered or taken the course. And actually, over 2,500 were a part of the California Association of Realtors when they initially offered it, the first course. So I really am passionate about this, and I hope that you will see the absolute how you can change people's lives and how you can make a real difference in your community.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Connie. We're thrilled that you were here tonight. I appreciate you taking your valuable time. And thank you, everybody else. Anyone have any questions before we wrap up? Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And we will be posting the recording in the group, and along with the links and paperwork and stuff like that. So thanks again, Connie, and we'll see all the rest of you guys next week. Have a good night.
Nice
Thanks,
to meet you all.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.